Hey, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Liz, business coach for women of color. And in today's video, I want to talk about how to balance building a business while you're also working a 9-to-5 job. This is an important conversation to have because for the majority of us who are building businesses, we will have to do it while we're still working a 9-to-5 job. We live in a capitalist system. We need money to literally survive. So it's not going to be likely that we're going to hit 6 figures in our first year of business and then can go ahead and quit our jobs. So we're going to have to navigate this weird, unique space of trying to grow as an entrepreneur while also still being an employee for someone. And instead of going the typical route that people always go down where they just talk about time management, I thought it would be much more helpful to talk about my journey as I have been growing as an entrepreneur and growing into that identity while also balancing my 9-to-5 work and using that to really provide some helpful context and just really adds more layers than just the typical manager time. It's like, yes, the actual nuts and bolts of it, if you boil it down to the actions that you do out in the day-to-day world, will be managing your time. But there's a way that I feel like we need to color it to really help with understanding and really helping us to feel more comfortable in this uniquely uncomfortable space. So I want to share a bit of my story with you today. So when I started my business in 2020, I was and still was working in HR. And even before the insanity of 2020, I was already starting to feel a bit sort of burnt out from my role in HR, even like 2018, 2019. I was already starting to feel that very familiar feeling of there is far too much work to do. I am very stressed out and burnt out. And I don't feel like anything I'm doing is actually even making a difference. I literally felt like I was just a corporate goon. And it felt like I had so much to do, but yet I could not stay afloat. And it also just felt like I was kind of just pushing papers around, just continuing to just move the nuts and bolts of the inner workings of these organizations where things weren't really getting done. Impact wasn't really being made. I was feeling undervalued and unappreciated, and also gaslit from managers who would continue to throw the world on my shoulders, but then tell me I'm not doing enough to my face. It was definitely a time of feeling like I was just over it. I was just stressed out, burnt out, over it. I wanted to be able to do work that actually lit me up. Like I wanted to be able to do work where I felt like I was actually making an impact, where I was actually doing something to help the communities that I'm a part of, like to help women of color. You know, these DE&I initiatives are real cute, but when we really like sit back and are in it, we see that progress, if any, is even made. It's baby steps. And so I just did not love the idea of being stuck in a 9-to-5 job where I was making very little impact and also just suffering extra for just being a woman of color and then being told to just hold on and wait it out because things will get better in the next decade or so. I wanted to do something that I felt truly mattered to me. So I was feeling this frustration, feeling this burnt out, also even feeling a bit of anger towards myself for even picking HR to begin with. I somehow managed to find a way to blame myself for picking this career field because I should have known that it would have ended up this way. You know, it just was not a good feeling. So cue the Panini Press, that was 2020. And by that time, I had already left a really toxic job, like the most toxic space I had ever worked at. And I had left that job without another job lined up, which was something that my Capricorn self never does. The Panini Press hit and I basically was unemployed for about 6 months or so. And during that time, that's when I discovered the world of like online business. That's where I discovered this idea of like, oh, you can actually like turn your passions into profit. You can make real impact, and you can, in your business, do things your way, and you can work from anywhere and not overwork yourself into an oblivion. And you can also, show up in a way that feels good to you, even as an introvert. Like, it was just telling me all the things that I really just felt like I'd been looking for this whole time, that many of us feel like we've just been looking for this whole time. And that's when I started to get into that. Now, at the time when I started my business in 2020, I didn't just go full time in my business straight away because, again, that was a little too risky for me. I know some people will go on ahead and just quit it all and just go all in. That is not me. That is not me. And it's not what most of us would be able to do. We have responsibilities, we have families. It's just not going to happen. So I did it. And as I was learning and trying to grow my business, looking at different mentors who promised to, guide me, you pay for course after course, program after program. As we all eventually begin to discover, we realize that this business thing is not as easy as people claimed it to be. And so over time, over a few years of working on this business, I got to a point where I was feeling really frustrated once again, because I thought that I was the problem. I really was wondering, well, what the heck am I doing wrong? Or what can't I understand to get to, these coveted 10K months and all this other stuff that people are talking about, right? So I really started to think maybe, I should just kind of give up on this whole business thing. Like maybe I should just try to make things work in HR, or I could even switch careers maybe. I could even be willing to take a pay cut even just to switch careers. Like maybe that's just another alternative I really need to be seriously considering. But then I also had another thought. I thought to myself, well, what if the problem isn't me? And what if the people I'm learning from are just kind of full of shit? And that was when I truly started to see, my eyes started opening to what was going on and how people were, even people with the best of intentions, were providing this guidance that came with instructions that were either incomplete, inaccurate, or even just plain lies in some situations. And I really started to see why this business journey was so damn difficult is because you come in being told and marketed from everyone that, there's a blueprint and someone has a blueprint and they can help you. And then you eventually learn that there actually is no blueprint because all these people are just kind of lying to you because they're not happy and they're not doing business the way that they wanted to. And they're just trying to get you to buy in on the hype. So I decided to just make my own rules. I was like, all these rules are wrong. That's why I'm struggling. Like I've spent my entire life following rules to get to where I needed to go, following the instructions. And it never occurred to me that in entrepreneurship, you can't trust the rules because they're all inaccurate or incomplete. No, you don't think that. You're still so naive. And even when you step into it, I know when I stepped into it, I was thinking, there are definitely sketchy characters online. I don't want to be taken advantage of. I'm really going to do my best to thoroughly vet these people. And you do. But still, you're still so naive to how, I almost want to say insidious, but in many cases, most people are very well-meaning and they don't intentionally mean to mislead you. So it's just rigged from the get-go. So I decided to just make up my own rules and just commit to my first 100 offers. I was like, listen, social media is noisy. I bet you people are just not seeing my stuff as much as they need to. So I'm going to disregard what this guru and that guru is telling me. And I'm going to go on ahead and try this and see what happens. I have nothing to lose. And that's what I did. And after 7 months of hearing crickets and not signing any clients, I signed 2. And I was like, yep, that's all I need. I'm ready to go. Let's keep on pushing. Let's keep experimenting. Let's keep testing what makes sense to me and where I'm at, and what also is in alignment with my value system, because I'm not going to do something that I think is gross or unethical. Like, let me test what I want to test and see what happens. And that's what I've done. That's what led me to making my first 10K and beyond. Like, you create your own. That's the path. And you learn from people as you go. But as you learn from people, you also take what they have to say with a grain of salt, like a huge ass grain of salt. Like, if it makes sense to you, you go on ahead and add it and test it. If it doesn't, you ask questions. You just ignore the things that just seem like absolute nonsense. And if it ends up being helpful at a future date, then something else will appear that will add a little bit more nuance to it to make it make sense to you. Like, that's what I've learned. So this journey into entrepreneurship while I was building my 9-to-5, it revealed something really huge to me. It not only changed the way I thought about online business, social media, the coaching industry, it also changed how I viewed my 9-to-5 jobs as well. And I realized that the issues that I saw in the online space are not just special and unique to the online space. Like, these same issues are happening in our brick and mortar 9-to-5 jobs. We just don't see it that often because it's all done behind closed doors. Like, these discussions, the things that would make your head spin, these things happen at tables that you're just not a part of, that just aren't as open online for the world to see. The reason why 9-to-5s are such a toxic experience is because most of them are led by CEOs who have shitty mindsets because they refuse to do any type of inner work whatsoever. And so they spew that out onto the rest of the people who work for them. It trickles down to the managers and it trickles down to you and your experience. And that's why you're surrounded by all these unhappy people, because all of that toxicness just flows down. And not only do most CEOs have shitty mindsets, but they also have shitty business acumen as well. Because you think that just because they are steering the ship of this huge business that makes all this money, millions of dollars, even billions in some cases, you think that they know what the fuck they're doing. But they don't. Because what actually led them there is oftentimes a combination of right place, right time, right privilege. In most situations, what is there is literally always hanging on by this precarious thread because they keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again because they refuse to actually sit with their shit to try and actually make change. This is what we're in today. When I truly opened my eyes to this, I thought about my 9-to-5 job in a very different lens. I realized, the reason why I have been feeling so overworked and so burnt out, like I'm moving in 1,000 different directions, is because that's how my managers feel. Like, they feel this way because they too are also feeling burnt out, overworked, and also moving in 1,000 directions because they're working for leaders that also have no vision, that have no focus, and have no prioritization. So yes, that doesn't just go away. And I realized, okay, if I want my situation at work to change, then I'm really going to have to take my work by the reins and really pull out what it is that I'm going to do and what it is that I won't do or just can't do right now. And I did just that. I just focused on and prioritized the 2 to 3 things that I felt I needed to focus on. I knew the business case as to why it should be something I focused on. And I made sure that these were things that also had metrics attached to them so I could measure the impact of what I was working on. And it was funny to see how at this point, I feel like I'm making more impact working in HR than I ever had in like my entire decade of being in HR, because I'm actually setting a goal and I know the impact of that goal and I'm working towards that goal. And it's a goal that interests me because there was a reason why I got into HR in the first place. I was able to reconnect to like, oh yes, this is why I thought HR was so cool to begin with. It's because of this, not because of all this hundreds of other things that I've also had to do because I just felt like I had to do everything in order to feel like I would keep my job. But because these are the things that I always knew were important. And these are the things that I continue to focus on and can make the business case for if anyone were to question what it is that I was choosing to do and why. So interestingly enough, I'm able to balance out building a business while working my 9-to-5 job because I am now treating my 9-to-5 job also like a business. So I get to maintain my entrepreneurial identity in all the things that I do. And just like in my business, in my work, I just prioritize the 2 to 3 things that I want to get done every day. And I focus on those things so that I always know I'm moving the needle. Another thing that you need to understand is that the 9-to-5 job, it's an endless conveyor belt of work. Like work is just going to get spewed at you from all sorts of directions. It's endless. And, that's why there's a job there for you to fill, because that shows that there is a need. But that does not mean that you have to make it your responsibility to complete the endless conveyor belt of work, because that's an impossibility. It's an endless conveyor belt of work. So it's helpful to identify what tasks of yours are that endless conveyor belt of work. For me, and for most people in corporate America, it's email. Your email is like an infinite black hole. It's an infinite time suck. So putting boundaries around how often you spend time in your emails and putting like project management tools, something simple, doesn't have to be fancy. Honestly, I still use an Excel sheet for most of my stuff and ClickUp for some other things. Putting some tools in place there to help manage that infinite conveyor belt and not feeling like you have to hold yourself hostage to the illusion of having a clear inbox. Like this ideal that the clear, clean inbox to 0 means that you are doing your job well. No, that probably means that there probably shouldn't be a job there. But don't tell anybody that if that's what you're experiencing. So reprioritizing, focusing on the few things, like the 2 to 3 things max that are of impact and will move the needle, and working on those things first. And then when one of those things is done, then you can put in another thing to replace it. But we just don't have infinite resources at our disposal. And by pretending like we can handle everything, we're going to burn ourselves out. This also applies to your business as well. If you try to do all the things in your business, you're going to burn yourself out there too. And it's a lot easier to do that because your business is really where your passion is. Like that's really the place that motivates you. So it's so easy to lose yourself in all these endless activities in your business, forgetting that literally as a solopreneur, you're doing the jobs of at least 10 different departments and you don't even know it. So you have to prioritize your top 2 to 3 things and then put boundaries and parameters around whatever task is the infinite time suck in your 9-to-5. All right. Let me know if you have any questions about today's topic, my journey, ways that I'm managing the infinite time sucks that I've identified in both my business and also my 9-to-5. It's important to be able to do this because when you feel like you actually have like some white space and some breathing room for you and your brain, then that's where your creative juices will flow. Like that's where you'll innovate and really start problem solving and then be able to really have even more impact in the work that you do in your business and even in your 9-to-5 job if you want. So if you need help creating this white space for yourself so that you can really balance building your business with your 9-to-5 job, I have spots open in one-on-one coaching and I can help you. Use the link in the description box below. Book an interest call. We will chat and make sure it's a right fit and we'll get started. Also, in the description box, you can follow me on socials, follow me on IG. If email's more your jam, join my email list. Definitely shoot me a comment, send me a DM, let me know what you thought of today's video. And with that, I'll see you later. Take care.